Good evening, everyone. So, welcome back to our channel. So, this is our sixth mini session for the group Uncut Inception. So, we'll be sharing different types of technologies here, any kind. So, for tonight, we have Dorell for sharing. He's the first speaker. So, go Dorell.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Faye. Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen? Okay. We good? Okay. So my topic for tonight is about node split that sort join, which is basically if you run that code, it says Deno. So Deno is it is a secure runtime for JavaScript and TypeScript, and Deno is a simple one, kind of modern. It uses V8 and V8, which is a Chrome engine, and it's built in Rust. So those two are uh, JavaScript and TypeScript. It is secure by default, and you have like no file or network environment access unless you explicitly enable it. Out of the box, it supports TypeScript. So TypeScript and Rust, those are the two uh, most loved languages according to the Stack Overflow development survey. Okay. It ships only with one single executable file, and it has many built-in utilities. So I don't know if you can call it like a successor of Node, but it is built differently. And although the what you call this, the types of code or the language itself is different. I think you can call it modern because it supports the recent technologies that we're using, like TypeScript, etc. So, yeah. So, quick comparison is that we have this at the left side is Node, it's engine, and right side is Deno. So, engine is V8, and it's written in C++ and JavaScript, while Deno is built with Rust and TypeScript. And if we're using package managers, it's using npm, or you have not yarn also. But in Deno you use URLs. Then when you import packages, you have to use this kind of common JS syntax, but it's also possible now with ESX modules presently with Node, using Babel and uh, other types of things you can use that. And security by default is, in Deno it is permission access, so you have to explicitly define the permissions that you need to in order to run a Deno project and a Deno app. And TypeScript, as you know, is built in, while TypeScript in Node is kind of like an opt-in, so you can choose to have it or you can choose to not have it. But since like the creators of Deno really like TypeScript, um, said TypeScript's the best thing that happened to JavaScript. I don't know, but according to the creator, it's his opinion, not mine. Well, that's it. That's why I like it. Okay, so this is like in Deno. This is how you run a in CLI. So in Node, it is different in a way that you specify Node, then you source it with a file. But as you can see in this example, it's actually sourcing with a full URL. You can choose to specify also a file within your local directory. But the capabilities of Deno is it allows you to really directly point it anywhere. So it's publicly hosted file somewhere. And when you run that, this output download HTTPS, and the output is welcome to Deno. But the welcome.ts actually has only this code here. Okay, and let's also look at the complex example, which here is have like my screen is blinking. Deno LAN. So you have this modern ESX import serve from server.ts Deno LAN. You create a server specifying for port 80, then you can console log localhost 8000, then you respond with the body of hello world. So example, this will also, if we run this later, I'll show you, we just output in the processor hello world. So that's it. How to get started? In Linux or Mac, you can choose to run this command curl. Blah, blah. This is also can be found in the docs. If you're on Mac, you can also use brew. So like brew install Deno and you have it. Okay. But oh yeah, I think I have made a mistake with my slide. So actually the second command is for Windows. So IWR then. So it's gonna work with as if you wanted on Windows. Okay. So I would really, from this juncture, I just want to make sure that we understand. I won't forget to mention the permissions list because this is really important. Because when I tried Deno a few months ago, 2 months ago, it stumbled me because I was not able to run Deno uh, with just this command. Deno ran using this one welcome. I mean this complex sample because in Deno you really have to specify the permissions that you need to run. And during that time, it wasn't helpful enough for me to really figure it out in a couple of minutes and not. So I spent a lot of time with it. So actually, the reason was that is that I need to allow net. So dash dash allow net, which basically says that you allow network access here in line number 1, 2, 3, 4, item number 4. So yeah, that's it. And for documentation, you can go to doc.deno.lan. So the documentation comes with a manual which contains in-depth explanations about more complex functions and runtime, and introduction to the concepts that Deno is built on, and details about the internals of Deno, how to embed Deno in your own application, and how to extend Deno using Rust plugins. So basically, this manual contains everything you need if you just traverse there and whatever, read there. Okay. So yeah, we also have like the standard modules, which is the modules that are uh, basically the standard ones. They are reviewed by the Deno team and is currently to work with a specific Deno version. There are also third-party modules because the Deno team can, there are many existing packages that we've grown to use with Node, and they are brought to Deno using, the support for like pk.dev and gspm.io. So yeah. You can go and check it out on deno.land/x, so extended for X. So from here, we'll take a look at a to-do API example that I created like last 2 months, I guess. And before I go to the code, I'll mention the packages that I used. So these were third-party uh, packages that I did. So the first one is of mine. So this is pretty similar. The footprint just basically the same with Express. If you're using Express, then this should be really familiar with you. Deno Mongo. This is a MongoDB database driver. So for my database on this to-do application that I created and I was experimenting on this, I used Deno. And for allowing configuration via variables on file, I use that env for handling that. Okay. Okay, so one more thing. When I was doing this kind of exercise, I encountered a recoverable error. And was like invalid object ID, and so I don't know. It was at the time. I don't know if it's fixed now on the latest version. But when I tried it this morning, it's still there. So yeah, so I can't get rid of this. Yep. Okay. Um, before well, let's get back to the tip na lang after this. So for now, let's try to run some codes. Okay. So the first one that I'll show you is this is the I don't know if it's visible enough. So sorry, my bad. So was the code in the previous slide that I was trying to show you. And to run this, basically we just need to Deno run and specify. Let's see first some error. So here you can see that Uncaught permission denied network access to localhost 8000 port and run again with allow net flag. So you can try that to Deno allow net, then complex the DS, and now it's here. You can click this, and it takes us an output with hello world. So from here, it just says that respond with a body of hello world. So that's why you're seeing this hello world example. Okay. Okay. So for the to do API, I have this to do API, and basically we need to run a couple of commands like then run for that. We have a server.ts. I'll go through the files after we run this. Then I'll run server.ts. So it says here that we need to allow read permission. So yeah, you have to go through this. But if uh, but if you're kind of lazy, you can actually specify allow flag all. But we're not gonna do that here for now. So just gonna copy paste here a code. And so basically we will have to allow net, allow read, allow write, allow plugin, and since I think the Alpine package is supports unstable, so you need to also specify unstable, and also this flag reload will actually reinstall everything. So you'll see how it's like installing everything. So as you can see right now, it's downloading everything. Instead of, if I didn't specify dash reload there, you will not see this download stuff here going. So here I already have my project running, the To Do API, which is hosted at port 3000. And the code here, it can be found in VS Code, is this. So basically, if you've been creating to-do APIs and using Express, you'll be really familiar with this. So I have here a server.ts, and I have Alpine here added. So direct imports using URLs instead of using packages. So there's no more package.json. Oh, here. I think it was created before here, but this is not really necessary. There's no more package.json. Just use imports like this. So if you actually hit this, it will basically take you to the source code of that one. So you have to, and it will automatically resolve any other files or modules that it needs. So you have it pretty much straightforward here. So basically, with so how this works is that it's just like in your normal Express app. This was Express. You're a node. You specify the port. You allow JSON to be accepted as your inputs, and then you specify some routes. And whatever happens, you also specify handle error, which basically outputs whatever wrong thing that. Then you listen to port 80, and your app is started at localhost 3000. Okay, so if we look at our routes, I have here the index route which it exports everything. So I imported here the to-do router, uh, and I have here basic setup for the slash, which basically returns a JSON with a message hello to do API, and the routes for to-do router is here. So yeah, so you have to do that get, and you have the same footprint with Mongoose. So you have, if you're using MongoDB, you have get all to dos. You have, if depending on whether it returns an error will be populated, or the to dos will be populated if it's success. So you have return to dos, you have post to dos, await create to do, passing it. If something goes wrong, yeah, return undo. Since we have the error handling and stuff, so you can just forward the error and let the error handling do its job. So we have get to do by an ID, basic stuff, put to do and delete to do. So we have everything here set up, and basically it just derives everything. The functions are here, and actions to do actions. So get all to dos, create to dos, get to do, etc., etc. And the connections are configured here and in here. So they handle error, the basic port of URL is MongoDB localhost. The default port is 3000, and your DB connection is here, etc., etc. I think I'm really confusing you now as I traverse this, but basically, if you've been working with Express, and this all stuff here will be really familiar, except here that you have kind of like support with TypeScript. So you have this type annotations, like request is of type request, response, next function, and the imports are automatically based from the URI. So if you have to test this, have here, so get to do's, return. I mean, get the slash the base path. Have hello to do API. I'll get all the to dos. So these are the output. These are the format of what I get directly. So I could choose to trim this down, but I didn't, just for the sake of this example. This is using Hello.js Cebu at that time. I have here a post to do which passes a description, hello Cebu JS. So here, when I click sending the request, you have here choose to dos, and I also have here get to dos with an ID. This automatically has been existing in my local MongoDB records. So I send a request. That's it. I'm here. I'll get this one, and I'll also send an update to this ID. So data description, description too, and it says here data description too. It's completed, and you can also delete something, and it says to for all components. Okay, so before I close this one, accept your questions, I'll give you some tips. Um, tip. So when you're developing with Deno, it's kind of cumbersome because you have to rerun everything, right? When you make some changes, and you can actually use Deno. So you have like in Node, this was like Node 1. So you have automatic file reloading. I mean app reloading once you change something in your code. So you have it. You can go to deno.x/denon to learn how to install this and use this. And last, but my other tip is that when using VS Code, especially this file imports URL. Sorry, where is it? Oh, server. This one. It will actually throw you an error, lots of errors, but you can actually use this Deno extension to we're good at. And you, with that, and using that, you also have like intelligence support. You have religious module import, and so many more things. And I think, yeah. So I think I'm done. Are you still there, guys?
So
If you have any questions, just let me know, and
Uh,
I'll try to answer like your questions.
I'm sure we have lots of questions. So who wants to go first?
I want to go first. I have a question.
Okay.
So, like, it's interesting that like how you import stuff is through URL.
Yeah.
Does IntelliSense work
I'm so sorry. Can
on
you
your
repeat?
code editor? Does the IntelliSense
Yeah, yeah,
work?
yeah.
It
Actually,
does.
yes. For example, import. Um, yes. I don't know. I didn't try this, but according to here, see. According to here, you have like support here. Asterisk from path from, C. I don't know. Right now, it doesn't work. But it should be working. I don't know. Like right now, when I try this, it doesn't seem to work. I don't know. Maybe I did something wrong.
like
Then
for, for example, if you have say you have imported opine there, if the opine object has some attribute or something,
I.
does the sense kick in
Mm.
or no? Okay. That it does.
Sorry, I cannot hear you.
For example, you've imported opine
Oh yeah.
at the top line. Then when you type in opine that, so for example, you expect that there's a get method. When you type G and then
Mm.
IntelliSense, it show you that there's a get method or something. No.
Let's try that. Let's try that. So we have to import reason, but don't know. So I have here so the didn't work. I don't know. My intelligence is not working. Because I don't know, guys. Like earlier, I configured this like script. You know this, and something went haywire. I don't know what happened. But it should be working. But like if the type annotations, you can actually just inspect this. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Like this one, IntelliSense use.
Okay. So
Coming from E7, this is not the correct IntelliSense. But it should be there.
okay. That's it.
Yeah, I ask the next question. So okay, let me think about it first. So because when you import things in Deno, you import them by URLs, right?
Yeah.
So is it like up to the developers of like the third party like modules already to host their scripts somewhere in their own hosting, for example? Like
Uh,
there's no more npm js.org.
mm,
So
Actually,
okay.
yeah. So if you are for third-party modules, like you are an external vendor or solo developer or whatever it is, you actually host your code here in Deno LANX, and they have this. How do I host modules on Deno X LAN? So we can basically follow their instructions, and then here you can, if you're looking for like Express, so look here, there's already so many flavors you can use, but then I choose Opine that time because it has many stars like this. So
Okay.
yeah,
So you can choose to host your code there, or you can also host it
somewhere.
by somewhere else. Okay.
Mm-mm.
Second question, and also last question. Can you use are most like an existing npm packages like interoperable with Deno, or like completely not?
Actually, if
or maybe there's a way, or I don't know, because
actually, not all packages have been imported, right? So, if the developers, the maintainers of the packages choose to import this on Deno, like this in third-party modules, I think they're choosing to rewrite their apps using TypeScript, especially like today's world. It's a TypeScript. I don't know. But you have, as I mentioned in my slide, where's my slide again? uh, is this here? So if like for example you have some code. I think for that time that moment was not yet supported, so I have to import it using pika.dev. So if you go to pika.dev, I'm just gonna show you pika.dev, and you can I don't know how to use this again. What's it? Just like this. Uh, I here. Moment. Okay. Something like this. You click that. Um, dun. Saan ako to? Yarn, Skype. So some here. So you have their Skype app, and you can actually use this URL in Deno. So here you can something like that. And this one seems to work. So
Okay.
so you have Pika that this and where's it? gspm.io. So this I think I forgot how to host but you can actually host it like I think there's a special, but one thing is that you can host it like a Docker component here like imply.io. So JSPM, so you can have like something like this import model from. Yeah, I just don't know really much how to use this, but you have this option if you like to. Since
Okay. Thank you. That's all
okay,
for
okay. You have my question? Okay,
anyone else.
Terrence. Wow.
Uh,
Uh,
I have no questions. I have no question in my part.
I have a question. I'm not familiar with JavaScript development, but take for example, I have an existing project that
mm,
is using Node,
mm,
and there is something in Deno that can greatly help simplify or greatly help if I'm using Deno. How's the migration? How's the effort if I wanted to replace Node.js with Deno? Is it really hard, or is it possible and it's a common practice nowadays?
yeah. Okay. Thank you for your question. I would like to answer this no based from my experience and not with like this is kind of like an opinion and this is just my opinion. When I tried this 2 months ago, I just don't know. Maybe Deno is released in production, as we know, but the community hasn't really matured. The packages that were created, like the third-party packages, are still unstable, and then it frequently changes everything. So, based from my experience with using with creating this to-do API, it was kind of like hit or miss. Some things are easy, some are hard because we'll have to find it how to use this. Like for example, the open package at that time doesn't have like a really good documentation, so I have to dig around with the code to understand okay how to do this, and especially if I have to provide the TypeScript authentications, so I specify how to get the next function, the response, etc. Those kinds of stuff, and the MongoDB driver at that time, I don't know, it doesn't seem to work when you're using external URLs, like something like you're using mlog or MongoDB Atlas. So that's why I stick with the local host, MongoDB driver, and so I wouldn't really advise to to use it in production, especially for bigger projects. If you have like a toy project, well, you can use it and try to see here in in X third-party modules. Something there are top packages that it seems to be well created, but for most of the stuff that you probably need, you won't really find it there. So you have a hard time finding the right package, or you have to, implement it in your own. So I guess to really answer your question, you just have to try it because the matters like it's really different, but it's actually a breeze. You don't have to manage npm package, etc., etc. And the versioning is already part in the URL. So if you specify version at point of this one 11.11, so it's already there. I think that's it. Thank you.
All all right. I think
you.
that's the last question for now
Thanks,
because
Dorell.
it's already 30 minutes, Arnil said. So thanks, Dorel. So it's
That's it.
time for the next sharer,
Thank you.
which is Terrence. So
Oh, Terrence.
you can start now, Terrence.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm sharing my screen.
Okay, kung ganda si Kadiri Terrence Pardili awkward. I don't see your screen, Terrence. Terrence, are you sharing your screen or not yet? Oh no, we lost Terrence. Guys,
He froze.
let's
He
come
froze.
back.
He froze.
Terrence gone.
Oh,
Oh,
Terrence left.
Oh
where's
let me ask
Terrence?
him.
no, one soldier down.
He just froze like that.
Um, I'm messaging him. I think he will try to join again.
Internet in a developing country. Sorry,
Okay,
guys.
okay. According to Terrence, his laptop restarted.
Oh no, it's not the internet.
Okay, in the meantime,
In the meantime, Neil,
So
I see like there's a blinking battery icon on your.
yeah,
I think we can ask more questions about Deno to Dorel while I'll change my battery and while we wait for Terrence. Okay,
technical problem.
I will just turn.
Let's
Okay,
just go to the docs and try to see something like. Okay, can you see my screen?
No.
Wait, I'm not sharing my screen. Uh, share screen. Oh, I'm still sharing my screen. Okay. So this is the Deno docs. If you go to Deno.land, you can follow them on Twitter. And Deno land. Yeah, Deno land.
Are you an endorser na?
No, not really. So you can follow them on Twitter. The current version, by the way, is I think they just released. Uh, see, you have here, Iman. You see, they have like intelligent support, but mine doesn't seem to work. I don't know why.
yeah, I just thought I have another question for Deno.
Oh, okay.
Um, so remember the dash dash reload flag? So it will
Yes.
download everything again from the internet, right? I
Yeah.
mean from the URLs.
Yeah.
So does that mean that it's going to cache all those URLs
Yes.
somewhere?
Yeah. So
Okay.
here.
So but can you like I mean if with Node.js or npm you have the node modules folder for it, right?
Mm.
Is it what where are they stored? Or should we really care about it or no need?
To answer your question, I don't know where it's stored, but I didn't really care. Just
Okay.
but it's all. If I run this again without the reload flag, you'll see that. You see that you didn't have to download everything because it's already cached or stored somewhere in your, I don't know. Let's find out.
Um, yeah, so follow up to that. If you're using, for example, you used Opine already
Oh,
in in a previous project and it's cached, and then you have a new project
mm.
where you use Opine again with the same URL, it will just work.
If the same version, if you're using the same version, it will not download anymore. But if you're using a different version, it will have to download that disk.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? I'll still here. So here should be PowerShell. So yeah,
Okay,
sample.
I think Terrence is back.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Stop my search screen.
Hi Terrence, welcome back.
Hi, everyone. Sorry for that.
Okay, no problem. It's your turn, Terrence. You can continue.
Okay, let me start my Okay, hi everyone. So for tonight's session, I'd like to share regarding one of the most common tool that developers and DevOps are using, this Docker. So let's check their website, docker.com. They are saying that we help developers and development teams build and ship applications. So basically, Docker is a tool to help teams package their applications, which is consistent with consistent environment, and um, everything is included in that package to run that application. So we can check the use cases that Docker is presenting us. So first is it works on my machine, since it is a really uh, common problem that um, the application is running on your machine, but if you check it on your like staging server, everything is messy. It's not working. So it's Docker is trying to fix that problem, solve that problem. So yeah, it says here Docker allows you to run containers locally, eliminating disparity between your development and production environments and everything in between. And next one, I have new developers too on board. So they are saying that regardless of an organization size, onboarding new developers and getting them up to speed as quickly as possible remains a distinct challenge. So since you are already packaging your application using a configuration file, so there are lesser things to do on your part than just run your Docker containers, and you can already work on it and run it on your machine. And another one is we are adopting microservices architecture, and they are saying that Docker allows you to containerize your microservices and simplify delivery and management of those microservices. So Docker is an open source project that is mainly based on um, Linux containers, and the containers are isolated, lightweight, and everything your application needs is already in there. So so I have here a Django application. Let's try to use Docker to package this one. Let me let me transfer to my terminal here. Okay, okay. Here I have a sample application, which is a Django app. So if I wanted to um, run my application on a different machine, or I wanted to deploy it on a remote server, um, my common practice is that I clone my my repository, then create a virtual end in my on that machine, then install the dependencies, then run the web server or my application. But with Docker, if we wanted to package them. Uh, First, we need a Docker image. So a Docker image is a it's like a snapshot of your application. So it's already there. Whatever you wanted your environment to look, it is the image. Then from this image, you can already run it, and it will create a container, which is the executable package for your application. So in order to create a Docker image, it uses a configuration file. We called it Docker file. So here I have a sample Docker file. So it's loading. Okay, here. So my Docker file is just very basic. It's around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. So this one will already um, create an image for me and run my application. So first, let's try to explain each line. The first line is we are using the from command. This from command initializes our Docker image. Then it sets the base image for the image that we're creating. So we can imagine an image is a combination of other images that is layered together. So here we can, if we check the Docker file for Python 3.8, we can see that its base image could be an OS, like maybe Ubuntu. Then it's and then a succeeding um, command is it's trying to install Python, and in this case Python 3.8, then all of its dependencies. Okay. So for us, we don't really have to do that. We'll just have to base our image on the official Python image with version 3.8. Then the next one, I wanted to copy my Django application currently on the same directory as my Docker file, then copy it to the slash Django app directory inside the container. Then the next one is I'm setting the work directory. It means it's like we are seeding to the slash Django app. Then the succeeding commands will run inside this directory. So that's why here the next one run pip install -r requirements.txt that will install all of our dependencies. And the last one, we are using the cmd command, which is the default command when our Docker container is created. So after our container is created, you can see that this command will be run. So here I wanted to run the development server of Django under port 8000. So with just this the configuration file, I can already create a Docker image that will include that includes my application. So let's try. Let's try to create the image. So the command is um, docker build the flag t, which is the tag for your Docker image. So we can like Django app, then we will specify the tag 1.0, then okay. Um, we can use dot if our Docker file is in the same directory, or we can use -f, then points to the path where to the directory. I mean to the directory that has our Docker file. So for now, we'll try to run it using that. Okay, so it's sending the build context to Docker daemon. Then you can see here in during the build for the image, um, it's running our command step by step. So you can see here from Python 3.8, we have this Docker image. If you don't have this image in your machine, it will try to pull from the from Docker Hub, which is the Docker's registry. So here, if you check Docker images, I already have okay Python 3.8. So here doesn't have to pull from the Docker Hub. Then you can see step two, copy work directory, run or install the requirements.txt. You can see also that's using cache because on my other image it is already installed, so it's just reusing. So it tries to be to 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 save time. That's why it's just using the cache, which is very good. And sorry, here using cache, which is very good. Then last one is the com- default command. So here we already have our Docker image. So this Docker image can be uh, pushed to a remote repository like Docker Hub. Then you can be able to pull that in a different machine, then run your Docker, I mean your application on a different machine. So let's try creating a Docker image for this one. Sorry, Docker container for this. So if you wanted to create a Docker container, you can use Docker run and the Docker Docker image you want to use, specify the tag. So with this, it will create a Docker container based on your Docker image. Uh, Okay, you can see here Docker container is already created. Let's check. If you wanted to check the running containers on your machine, you can just use Docker ps. So you can see here, I have one running container based on the image Django app 1.0. The command is Python 3, manage the Taiwan server, and the name is .encoding. So if you create a Docker container without specifying the name, Docker will just create a unique name for it. So here it, we should be able to our application should be running inside a Docker container. So let's try to check it in a browser. Check it under localhost 8000. Okay, you can see that nothing. We can access our Django application here. So I think I already mentioned earlier that if the Docker container is a lightweight and isolated executable package for your applications. So that means that Docker container is not by default not connected to your host machine. It is running on a different network. So if you wanted to access like specific port from the container, you should publish a port where you can access it. So example, Docker run, use -p. Then from my host machine, port 8000, I wanted to access the port 8000 of that container, which is where my Django application is running. Then I wanted to add a name for my container, like demo Then lastly, I will be specifying the base image for this. So let's try. See, let's check again. Here. Okay. So as you can see, we have one Docker container that's running based on Django app image with command manage the Taiwan server. With now, you can see that it has the port we published earlier, port 8000 from our host machine to port 8000 of that Docker container, and the name of the Docker container that was created. So if you wanted to check in the browser, here, it's already uh, restart, refresh. So here you can import 8000, can already access your Django application. So Docker is for like around less than 30 minutes. You can already package your Django application using Docker, and this Docker image, it can be distributed to different machine, and you can like just run Docker. After pulling the Docker image, you can just run the Docker image and create a Docker container. And so it's like I said earlier, my basic, my common practice in running my Django application in different machine. It takes a long time. So um, for this, Docker really helps you um, do some shortcuts and at least uniform way of building your application. So I think earlier I skipped the installation part. I'm sorry for that. Okay, so for now, let's try how to install Docker after doing all the examples. So Docker is supported in three platforms: Mac, Windows, and Linux distributions. So for Docker for Mac and Windows, the installation process is easy. So you just need to download the file. Then for Docker Mac, just copy it to the location folder. Whereas in Docker for Windows, there's an installation wizard that will guide you through all the process. Where for Linux distribution, let's check this one. It supports different platforms like CentOS, Debian, Fedora, Raspbian, and Ubuntu. So let's check. I think let's try Ubuntu, which is the most common distro. So here for installing Docker Engine in Ubuntu machine, all you need to do is just copy paste this command. So this command, update your apt cache first, then you'll try to install these dependencies. After that, you need to add the Docker's official GPG key, this one. Then after doing that, you need to verify the key, fingerprint. Okay, so after that, you can just add the apt repository. So for different architecture, x86, 64, AMD, we have this command. And for ARM also, it's supported ARM HF and ARM 64. So for like common laptops, I think it's just 86 or 64. So you can just copy paste this one. And after doing that, you need to update again your apt cache and install Docker, I think, Community Edition, then the CLI and container IO. So for Linux, everything is in CLI, whereas in Mac they have a desktop application for it, and I think Windows also. So here, after doing that, you can already try running Docker dash dash version on your machine. Okay, let's try on my terminal. Here for me, I have Docker version 10.03. So at that point, you should be able to see to have that response from your terminal. Okay, but during this time, Docker is installed using the root user. So if you wanted to run Docker with non-root user, you need to run this command sudo usermod dash ag docker and the current user you are using. So after that, you can be able to run Docker without sudo. So I think that's it for the installation process. And I think one of the difference in Docker for Windows and Mac versus Docker for Linux is that Docker is built with Linux in mind. So everything for Docker is tested in Linux, and it's really made for Linux machines. Whereas, so you can, if you are using Mac and using Docker in it, you can see that sometimes your laptop is like a helicopter because there are some extra processes that they are doing, so more resources are being used. So your machine is really trying hard to do all of that processes. Okay, uh, so that's it for the installation of Docker. So um, I think that's everything for the basic of Docker. Just for a recap, so Docker helps you to package your application in a single, like in a Docker image. Then the Docker image will be distributed to different machines or platform and run and create a Docker container. Then you can make sure that the with different machines you are running your application and expected environment within it and expected um, situations. So I think that's one of the core strengths of Docker. Of course, there are some alternatives for Docker, but for today, I think Docker is really, really the most common one for containerization process. So I think that's everything.
Thank you, Terrence. Questions, guys?
Yes, I have
Q&A.
one question. You mentioned there are other alternatives to Docker. What are the other alternatives to Docker? Because I don't know.
Manual.
Actually, I didn't haven't tried checking other competitors for Docker, um, but for me, when I tried Docker, everything not easy, but the documentation really helps me. So I think Linux containers is one of the alternatives, but I haven't tried it, and I'm not sure if really a really our platform or a tool, but yeah.
LV.
Okay, okay. Thanks, thanks. Anyone else has questions?
I have a question. So, as I see it, like it's because like you could also achieve an exactly the same environment through a virtual machine, right? So, if you're a new developer, maybe in your company, you could just create an ISO of your application that's can be loaded on a VM or whatever. But when you run a VM, it's noticeably slower if it's like running straight up on your OS. Does the Docker suffer the same uh, like the same performance issue? I would assume the VM is because there's so much layer in between. But does the Docker suffer the same performance constraints?
Sorry, there's a loud thunder the background.
Okay. So I was just asking if Docker also suffers like the same performance issue with a virtual machine. If you're loading an ISO in a, I don't know, I don't know what's the famous software for loading VMs. Is it VMware?
So actually, Docker is have pride in comparing their platform compared to VM. They are saying that it is lighter and it is faster than. Sorry, there's a lightning, and so that's faster than.
Thunder.
Yeah, that's very.
Heaven.
Yeah. Right. So
Heaven's hungry.
Docker is trying to compare itself with VM, and they're trying to say that they are really better. They are lighter, faster, because of their architecture. So we can, but I'm not really 100% sold that Docker is really faster with VM because there one time I tried it, not really a big difference, but I think the difference will be really visible if you are running a distributed system. Your architecture is based on microservices, so using VM compared to Docker, I think Docker is really um, helpful with that in that regards. Background light show. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I hope I
But
answered your
answer
question.
Yep. Yep.
Any other questions, guys?
uh,
Okay. This question. Okay, for people, for those who are used to using uh virtual and yeah. Uh, so can you differentiate virtual and Docker?
So, so the purpose of the Sublime is like to isolate your dependencies right in Python. So Docker can do that, but Docker is really it's like the isolation of Docker containers. Like when you compare it to virtualenv, it's like just a byproduct because Docker is the main focus of Docker is to isolate your application using containers. And if you are just it's optional to use virtualenv inside the Docker, but it's not really necessary because Docker container by default is already isolated and um, it won't mess up with your other dependencies in your host machine. So I'm not really sure how would you compare both of them, but Docker already covers the purpose of virtualenv in that regard.
All
I
right.
think
Another thunder and lightning. So okay, so also already shifted my fan. So I think there's are there any other questions?
no more from me. Thank you, Terrence. Dorell?
I
Oh,
think the heaven doesn't agree with me.
I have a question, Sarah.
okay, question. Okay.
Uh, in a I'm curious, no, like I cannot get it in my head, but like how to put things together. Like if you have an app that's using Python and you also need to spawn. Is it something like you also if you need a Mongo driver, I mean Mongo database, I also have to spawn MongoDB along my the profile. I don't know. And also like if I also need Redis, I also need other stuff. What should I do? If, I really don't have any idea. Like how do you put things together like that?
Short answer, yes, you need to create a different container for each um, applications. Like you have example Django application, and you need a database or MongoDB database. Then you need also Redis. So you need to create a different um, container for each of that one. And yeah, yeah, that's it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I see. So you just need to have different containers, and then you specify all those to work together, something like that.
Yeah, so in order for them to communicate, you need to publish the port. So you've seen earlier that I cannot just um, access the port 8000 in my host machine. So I need to publish the port for that. So in that case, for different database and Redis, Postgre, you need to publish a port for them to communicate also. But there is a service manager like Docker Compose that can manage different services, and they can communicate just within that network. So outside the host machine, they are not you cannot communicate with them. But these different services like MongoDB, Redis, and Django application, they can communicate with them on their own. Then you just like publish the port for um, Django app because Redis and Postgre doesn't need to be published. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Thanks, bye. You're really answering my question.
Thank you, Terrence. I think Dakar Compose can be a good topic for a future session.
actually, my plan is I'd like to share Docker, basic of Docker, then a little bit of an advanced that I know, not all of the advanced things. Then I'll try to share Docker Compose also,
All
like a
right.
mini.
So we have a plan for the next few weeks. So we have topics in line for the next few weeks. So no other questions? So I
None
think
from me. Thank
we
you.
have to wrap it up because we only promised 30 minutes, but we're way, way beyond that. We're already 1 hour. So it's fun to char na adlib. So it's fun learning new things with you guys. So that's it. So see you next week. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Finally said it. Bye bye.
Oh, bye. Thanks, everyone.
So,
Everyone.
thank